true to what you said on paper.
All right, welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. What a spirited conversation in that 7 o'clock hour. You know, I mean, folks, this is not judging, but when are we going to wake up and realize we have to do for ourselves and we can't depend on a system, and even more now that it's coming at us, not coming to us.
You got to get up, wake up. Don't let your life go by, my brother. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're listening
you
to
and I got to do for you and I.
Listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison. In the studio with my brothers from another, my co-hosts, the folks I couldn't do it without. The Rhodes Scholar has finally slid in here. Where's your permission slip? You were late again.
Yes, I was, but you know, I always have an excuse. But
excuse. What is it this time?
This
the
time,
dog ate my homework.
You know, it was the sun was in my eyes.
The sun don't even get up this early this time of year. Dr. Bradley.
Okay, brother, I'm good. The computer didn't fire up. That's what it was.
Yeah, the alarm didn't go off. Yeah, that's it.
The bootstrap processor didn't work.
An alarm. You can't even use those things anymore. The alarm, because everyone, you have an alarm, your computer right here in your hand. Yeah. Everything is combined now. You can't even, even get away with it.
I know. Anymore. They track you. They know where you're at. They're like, wait, no, sir. You at this location at this time. Oh, well, your phone.
Hey, brother, listen, it's hard to be a player today. You can't be a player now, dog.
Well, you can be a player. You just got to leave the real phone at home. Player's phone.
Player phone track, too.
He got a throwaway. He has a throwaway.
They call him burner phone, right?
You're going to run it, all right. It's going to burn you.
So again, you're listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO, believe it or not. Calling number here, 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. We're broadcasting live this nippy November 1st, 2025. Can't believe it.
I know, it's not a rebroadcast. It's live in studio.
Already, I know. A little hiatus there, a little family time to Pastor Hobble, well-deserved vacation and spend some time with his family. But we want to, Commissioner Michael Cox is under quite a bit of scrutiny these days over his issue with this whole, this whole homicide that took place in Canton.
With one of his officers that ended, and there was no investigation from the Boston police.
His involvement with one of the witnesses, who was a former Canton police officer, who is now was a Boston police officer.
Oh, she's no longer a Boston cop.
No, she had a conversation with Commissioner Cox, allegedly, the day before she testified. Commissioner Cox was questioned about whether or not he had that conversation. He said he didn't know who she was and all that. And now recently, the attorney that represented Karen Reed has sent in a letter to the police department as well as the Post asking that Commissioner Cox be put on the Brady list. The Brady list is for police officers whose credibility as far as telling the truth has come into question. And the reason for that being is that they were able to get a copy of his calendar, which had an appointment with him the day before.
But did that appointment happen though?
It did happen. Okay. She testified.
Let me
just say this, and then I'm going to play this audio here. I believe it happened because she went into court and put her hand up and said she had that conversation under oath, and the fact that she hasn't been charged with perjury. To me, gives more weight that she is telling the truth
than he is.
Okay.
And then his blotter with his calendar, why would that be there and the meeting set up if he...
That's the one thing I'm going to say. He's like, if he had the fact that he said, I don't know who she is, I'm like, wait, she's on your calendar. He could have been like, I had an appointment with her on schedule on the calendar, but I never met with her. I don't know who she is.
And here's the other interesting...
That's what he could have said. That's all he had to say was the truth.
She had a conversation with her in July, allegedly. What the calendar kind of confirms that. I don't think that's really too much in dispute. But then she abruptly resigns in August.
She resigned from the Boston PD in August.
Okay.
I guess there was harassment on that part.
So
let's hear what's going on.
But at one point she was a Stoughton.
Canton police officer. Yeah, she became a Boston police officer.
She actually migrated to Boston.
Yeah. Right, but she was involved in that because she was overseeing the video and stuff in the garage when the car was being processed.
Got it.
So that's why she was called as a witness, even though she had transferred over to BPD.
Okay.
And then,
got it.
This is unusual for a commission to come in, have anybody come in
exactly
and talk to them, because you could be it could be, somewhat, construed as a witness tampering.
Yes.
It's not a good look. And then when you're confronted with it, he's
and
like,
to lie about it, that's the problem.
Hello.
It's like if it'd been one thing, to be like, no, we just had a
stand by. We're gonna play a little bit of audio here.
Let's hold off on the lie until we hear it, though. I mean, because I'm thinking like
inside the Boston Police Department, loyalty often meant more than the law. Officers covered for each other. Brutality was routine. The blue wall of silence was absolute. Michael Cox had just joined the force. A black man in a white-dominated department. He was determined to make a difference. But from day one, he saw how deep the rot went. Black men were stopped, searched, and beaten without consequence. And the lies came easily afterward. Even Cox wasn't immune. Once, another officer's cruiser slammed him into a wall. Another time, he was beaten by mistake. He didn't complain. He wanted to fit in, to prove he belonged. Then came the night that would change everything.
While working undercover in the anti-gang violence unit, I was accidentally identified as the very individual that I was chasing.
Cox was working plainclothes, chasing suspected gang members wanted for murder. It was chaos, a high-speed pursuit through city streets, several departments involved. When he caught up to the suspects, other officers mistook him for one of them. 4 cops descended. They beat him mercilessly. Kicks, fists, batons, until he lay bleeding on the pavement. That's when they realized he was one of their own.
I was beaten severely, abandoned by those who swore to uphold the law, and faced with an unspoken code of retribution simply because I shared the same skin color as the actual perpetrator.
That is crazy.
So
hold on one second. Right now, we're going through this unauthorized commercial break.
Let's take this call while we're.
We're waiting for the skip button to show up.
Yeah. So, caller, good morning. Welcome to the roundtable.
Well, brothers, how are we doing?
Good, Siddiqui. How are you, sir?
Hey, everything. Look, just a very important announcement for the community.
Okay.
Back in 2019, the community had a very significant victory in terms of the name change of Dudley Square to Nubian Square, and then Dudley Station to Nubian Station. So one of the things that folks have said through the years is that, this was a historic moment for the community, and we never really had a celebration of that victory. So today, November 1st, at 2 o'clock p.m., at the Nubian Library at 149, I call it Nubian Street, there in Nubian Square, there's going to be a celebration for the community. It's open, no charge. The bottom line is that we're going to have a presentation by the Director Emeritus from the museum, Brother Barry, about the Nubian Empire, but also, like I said, just an overall celebration. And let me just emphasize that we call it the Nubian Library because of the fact that we've been disrespected by Mayor Wu. And look, with all due respect to Sarah Ann Shaw, that the mayor has dictated, just like she's done with White Stadium, that it's going to be called the Shaw Roxbury. And so we've made it very clear that that might be the name downtown, but in the community, we are calling it the Nubian Library because that's what the community wants. So we're inviting everybody to this celebration today at 2 o'clock at the Nubian Library. And like folks said, it was a historic moment. And, the bottom line is that we should be looking at the community coming together the way it did to support that name change, which has had a very positive effect on the community itself.
All right.
This sounds great.
All right. We'll let folks listening out there today.
Well, I'm going to be looking for y'all to be there.
2 o'clock.
All right, well, are you going to have...
I have a prior commitment, family commitment, so I won't be there in physically, but I will be there in spirit to support. If I had a little bit more lead notice, I could have...
that means your wife told you what time to be home.
There you go. And I'm not ashamed to tell it.
Hopefully, you guys gonna have like voter registration tables out there during that celebration.
Well, this is actually the election is on Tuesday, and you would never know that there was a vote in the election taking place for the city councils here. But it is what it is, and it is why we're in the shape we're in. So. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate all the effort and the work that's gone into there, but Siddiqui, I get it, and it's not anything against what you're doing, other folks are doing. I'm just not really understanding what real celebrations. Yes, the name change and all is a good thing, and maybe it helps things psychologically, but the fact that we're still standing in lines, we're still not moving up. Our kids still can't read and write. I'm not sure what real celebration is taking place.
Well, let me just say that I think it's interesting that you're saying that in terms of the element itself, in terms of the atmosphere and how it's affected our mindset psychologically. That's critical because of the fact that folks are, in fact, embracing Nubian Square. Nobody's talking about the former Dudley Square, including our young people. So that's important because if you look at what's going on there, you got One United Bank now is going to build their headquarters at John Elliott Square. Is within the borders. The borders are much more than just the commercial district itself.
Right. No, I guess
so what I'm saying is that, I mean, the brother there from Jalen Brown from the Boston Celtics, he says he sees Nubian Square as being a potential model as a black Wall Street for the country.
Is he going to be there?
What's that?
Is he going to be there?
They're out of town. No, they're playing their season. I'm just saying he's made that statement. So what I'm saying is that we're talking about a mindset now.
Well, let me just put that in perspective, Siddiqui. Let me because to your point there, right? I will be willing to bet everything I own, right, that the work you're doing and having people come out will be nowhere in contrast. And I'm not saying that they should be compared. They should be compared. When Nubian, when the mayor had this, the dedication of the New Edition block there, right, that there was tens of thousands of people out there, right?
And that day, that's the day I heard of it, and there was still tens of thousands of people out there.
To be entertained, and yet to be informed, there will not be a crowd there today. People will be looking for turkeys and other things. That's what I'm saying. I just don't see the expansion. I'm not saying that you guys, and I applaud you guys for doing the work that you're doing, but I'm just wondering why it's not expanding with our folks, right? And understanding.
Let me just correct you. That the bottom line is that in terms of the progress that's being made is based on the spirit of the people. First of all, if it wasn't for the community, there would be no Nubian Square because 90% of our community voted in support of the Nubian Square name.
But they also, Siddiqui, voted for an elected school committee, and that has not happened. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's a whole.
No. Let me say
that's
because
your mayor again.
Right, but this
anti-black community.
Right, Siddiqui. Siddiqui. But that's what I'm saying. This is symbolic, right? That's an easy one to change the name down there, like the mayor wants. But to change our conditions, that takes more work, and that's what I'm saying.
But that's happening right before our eyes, brother. If you clearly you have not been down to the square. There's a different spirit down there, brother. On the plaza there in front of the library.
Yeah.
There's family events going on.
Siddiqui, I've been inside the police station there, and I was talking to the captain down there. He's trying to do. Who Captain was saying he's a great guy. And I see what goes on there in the park there, the military, and I apologize for not because it's not Haram with the general, because I know Brother Haywood was instrumental in his folks and getting that park there, and I don't see it really being used for what it was intended for. So
what do you mean by that?
The folks the things that are going on in that park is not what it was designed for. But I don't want to get too on. No, Siddiqui, I don't want to get too off track here because I want to get back to the topic that we were discussing here.
Okay, I'm just saying. Let's not give the
exactly right. We can set up a time.
Let me close this by saying essentially what you just commented on. I've spoken to the captain. The Boston police, there's a perception, even though Brother Doctor is one of my best friends, there's been a perception that Siddiqui is anti-police. Wrong. I've met with the captain. He's been very cooperative, and everybody talks about the fact about how the environment has improved down there to the extent that when they talk about the problems of mass and caste and how a lot of folks are going down to Boston Common, you don't hear them coming to Nubian Square because the word is out among that community that, hey, that's not the place to go.
Okay.
Well,
when you go through that area of Nubian Square, the commercial district itself, you don't find folks out there peddling drugs, selling cigarettes and hanging out right there. It's a whole different environment. I worked on an agreement, I'll close with this, about 3 years ago with the original captain that's been carried on with the present captain. I just called 911 and they dispatched somebody to a specific area, turn on the blue light. So when you go through the
I got it. Dr. Bradley wants to weigh in. So
I just got to Siddiqui, so I'm going to check with the bride and see if we have anything. I'm gonna try very hard to get there because
It'd be good to see you, brother.
I do appreciate what I saw when I went down there with my bride, and my bride appreciated it because she was raised in that area. So I hear what you're saying when the small progress. One may say it was small, but intellectually and psychologically it's significant.
No, it is. I just think we have a lot of more work to do.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yes, I agree with that.
And I don't think it, but sometimes, Siddiqui, it almost sounds like you're declaring victory, and I don't think.
No, wait a minute, brother.
Okay. See, this is why I said I don't want to
battle. Victory in that battle, but the war's not over.
Exactly.
Excuse me. He knows I've been out here for decades. It's not about declaring victory.
I'm not
it's
saying
about progress.
that you are. Okay. So progress. So today at 2:00 at the Nubian Square Library, there'll be a celebration of the.
And bring your family down there. Bring your family down. I haven't met your wife. Bring her around down there.
Let me tell you this, Siddiqui, and I'm not just being sarcastic. I'm not ready for my family to be in Nubian Square.
Don't say that, bro.
I'm just being honest. Because I go down there, like I said, and I know we see things from a different lens, and maybe it's because of my background, and I see things that sometimes other people don't. Dr. Bradley, the same way. We pick up on things and vibes because other people, that's not what they're charged to do.
Dr. Bradley just talked about the improvement of the environment down there.
He was there for one day, a couple of hours, and like I said, if you hit it right, you can go there. But I hear people still telling me about, like I said, that they're really upset about what that park is.
Depending on the time of day you show up, there are different things going on.
Well, the time of day that I went there, it was doing well.
And I'm glad. And I wish it would be like that all day, but I also cannot.
All I'm saying is that
ignore
what you're putting out there, brother, gives encouragement to the folks who want to gentrify the area.
No, it's not what
they don't want to see the progress that's being made. There's a reason why the mayor is against the Nubian name, because of the fact that she understands the effect it's having on the community in a positive way.
All right.
So I'm just saying, bring your family on down there and do some shopping. A lot of folks are down there shopping now. Come on down there.
I've come down there. We support the Frugal Bookstore. We had a little fun drive down there, right? And we
good books down there.
Exactly.
I got some books on financial literacy.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're supporting. We're not knocking what's happening, but I think when you talk to the people down there, and I've talked to them, they're still struggling with a lot of that, because a lot of that, whether Sadiq, that they're not coming into the neighborhood because, whether it's imagined or not, they're not comfortable that with what's going on down there.
Hey, look here, they just need to come there. And if they're not coming to the neighborhood, they're living in the suburbs or something.
I believe you me. I know plenty of people that live in the area that don't go there. That don't go to the
I'm just saying.
No. It's not
the experience there right now. I mean, folks are bringing their families in the area now,
and that's great, and that's a personal choice that I'm not ready to make. Me personally, I go down there, but I would not bring my family down there.
Well, that's unfortunate, brother, that you have that mindset.
I don't have. It's not a mindset. It's a reality.
That's our community, brother. And what's like I said, there's a reason why One United Bank is bringing their headquarters there. Yeah. There's a reason why BECMA had just purchased a building there.
And there's a reason why Walgreens is gone
right now. That right before our eyes. And the gentrifiers are trying to figure out, how are we going to stop this progress?
Okay.
The bottom line is they're saying there's too many Nubians being put out there in terms of that name, because what it is that it's giving folks a sense of pride and saying, you know what, this is our home, and we're not going anywhere.
All right. Thank you, Siddiqui. We've got to let it go with that. Yep. Take care.
All right, Dr. Browder, we got to get together, bro.
All right.
Yeah. Today we will.
Today, and bring Rhodes and Larry with you.
Today at 2:00 at the Nubian Library, there will be a dedication marking the renaming of Nubian Square. So, folks, if you're in the area, come on down. Bring your family. Bring your friends.
That's right.
All right.
All right.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. It's always a spirited conversation.
Always, brother.
Yes.
That brother always been dedicated, though. for
And,
years.
and there's nothing wrong with that. I just, like I said, we just live in two different worlds when we see things. I see what I see. And
No, I'm gonna try to get there. I have some things I have to move around in my schedule.
Bring me a pack of Newports.
But I don't-
You know those are outlawed in the city. right?
I'm gonna try to get there.
Let's go back to where we were with
Covered the real
Cox
No one had
testimony.
reported the beating. The department had closed ranks. The silence was deafening. He started getting harassing calls. Officers warned him not to make trouble. But Cox wanted accountability, or at least the truth.
No one should ever endure such violent injustice. That experience painfully underscored that even in the most noble professions, at times, everyone could fall short of the ideals that they promised.
So he did what few in his position ever dared. He sued the Boston Police Department. The lawsuit broke through the blue wall. Years of hidden brutality suddenly had a face. The case ended with a settlement, $900,000 in damages, $400,000 in fees. No officer ever admitted guilt. 3 were fired. 1 got his job back and would later be fired again for brutality. For years, Cox was treated as a pariah inside the department, but he stayed. He stayed because he believed reform had to come from within. He rose through the ranks, detective, supervisor, liaison to the Secret Service, head of forensics reform. Every step, his very presence was a reminder of what Boston had tried to forget. In time, he would become chief of police, leading the same department that once left him bleeding on a sidewalk.
And yet within the darkness, I found a space for clarity. I learned that maintaining our integrity and compassion is more vital than ever in the face of institutional shortcomings. The human connections I forged reminded me that even when confronted with injustice, the values of empathy, fairness, and accountability guide us.
Commissioner Cox's story is undeniably powerful, but it raises an important question. Why doesn't any of that apply to Karen Reed? You'd expect a man who's personally endured such brutal injustice at the hands of police and who now holds the power to confront it to never take part in protecting corruption. It defies logic until you consider how much he stands to lose now that he's the one in charge. Alan Jackson's letter to Mayor Wu and the head of the Post Commission eloquently states the issue Michael Cox is facing now. Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox has been caught in a lie, and not a small one. On July 10, 2025, Commissioner Cox publicly denied any connection to the Karen Reed case or to Officer Kelly Dever. He was asked about the allegation that he met with Dever before she was called to testify in the first Reed trial in 2024, and that he told her to do the right thing. In his unequivocal denial, Cox stated,
I have nothing to do with Karen Reed. Matter of fact, I didn't even know this person was associated with the Karen Reed case.
He doubled down.
I was struck, like, what do I have to do with the Karen Reed case? I have never had said those words together. And so the fact is, it's much to do.
I'm the developer of the game, The Tower.
Okay, so so what this boils down to, folks, is that now we have a situation where the top administrator for the Boston Police Department, Commissioner Michael Cox, the allegations are that he lied about knowing about having a conversation with Officer Devers, who at the time formerly was a Canton police officer, came over to Boston, and now is a former Boston police officer that abruptly retired in August, resigned in August, and then the information comes out that Commissioner Cox did meet with her. And I guess, how does he go forward? Dr. Bradley, you served on the command staff here in the Boston Police Department. Mm-hmm. Because what I take away from this, the Boston Police Department has a policy of untruthfulness, and the only remedy for that is that you are terminated if you're found to be untruthful in your reporting or your comments. Now you have a blotter that shows that the police commissioner did meet with Officer Devers, and what that conversation, regardless if he admits today that he had a conversation, it's going to be in question, because they always say the cover up is worse than the lie. But I think it even goes a little deeper, and I don't have any evidence of this, but then one has to ask the question, Dr. Bradley, and our audience, Rhodes, is that the commissioner, Officer Devers testified in July that she had this conversation in Commissioner Cox's office. She testified under oath. Shortly after that, the commissioner was asked about it, and he denied having that conversation. I'm not sure of anywhere where there's been any investigation from the Internal Affairs or the OPAT, the city's, because if it's out there in the atmosphere that the commissioner and his subordinate are at odds on who's telling the truth, wouldn't you want that to be found out? So whether he decided or not, someone from Internal Affairs should have looked into this, right? The person who would have been charged at the time, Phil Owens, was in charge of Internal Affairs, is now the number 2 person in the Boston Police Department. So it calls into question that what did he do and what did he know as well? Because how do you just let this stay out there until this lawyer sends his letter asking for questions? This should have been investigated by BPD, because if it had been anyone else, they would have looked into it. And I think now the mayor has a problem because the top 2 people in the police department, it's like, well, what conversations, if any, took place with them? Your thoughts?
Well, I think he's in a quagmire here. But as a former commander, I have had situations, and I'm not saying that this happened. I have had situations where something is on my blotter that I didn't actually physically meet. Someone met on my stead, and we discussed it. Or someone, I had so much going on, I can't meet her at this time. I can meet her later. So I'm leaving room for that. Also, I'm wondering, what does do the right thing means? What did he meant when he said allegedly do the right thing? Does that mean to make sure you tell the truth, or that means to make sure you cover up? I have no idea what that means.
Maybe we should ask Spike Lee.
Well, we will, when we get him on the show. But I will definitely say that, again, it is subject to interpretation what is meant by do the right thing. So we don't know if it means like tell the truth or cover up for your buddy. So that being said, to give it, like Dr. Bradley says, give him the benefit of the doubt.
But I can't give him the benefit of the doubt. This is me. You guys have your own opinion. I say this because I know how powerful it is in the repercussions if Officer Devers got on the stand and she said, put her hand up and said that she had a conversation with Commissioner Cox under oath. He said that in front of reporters. I give more weight to her, and here's the reason why. If there was anything that they thought that she should, then why is she not being charged with perjuring herself?
I got that, but I think as a former commander, what I would do is have that whole thing investigated, because someone, if that meeting, which I would say that it probably did happen, other people around Commissioner Cox would have known, that yes, the meeting was scheduled, yes, the room was scheduled for him, yes, they sat in the room. I was not in the meeting, but I know they went in. So there's ways of actually determining if that meeting actually happened. Correct. Now, I think, so we just say for the benefit of the conversation, the meeting happened. Then it becomes even more important, what did he mean by do the right thing?
But also the fact that no one from the department or the city, when you have two opinions that are at odds, and the person who is charged with handing out the final discipline on other officers, and a subordinate saying that I did have this conversation with him, he's saying they didn't, that we wouldn't want to get to who is telling the truth.
We definitely want to get to who's telling the truth, especially because of the fact of the position the commissioner holds. Because of the commissioner's line, what would his officers do? What would he tolerate the officers doing? So that's a whole.
And we're going to grab these calls. But again, how can he now be effective? Because if, let's say I was charged with untruthfulness, and I'm going to tell my lawyer, hey, look, I learned it from the commissioner. If the commissioner wasn't investigated for allegedly not being truthful, then why should I be held to a different standard?
I hear your argument, and I'd appreciate it, but I think it's deeper. Because what happens is that you put all the other officers' testimony in question. If I'm an attorney And then at
If
the
the
top of your
police-
organization, top of your institution's lying, what make me feel
That
that
you're
you're
not.
not lying?
Or
And
you're
all
gonna be held accountable
all I have to
for
do
lying.
is create a element of doubt in
That's
any
what I'm
criminal case, and then that person's going to walk. So you put the effectiveness of your whole department in question.
Yeah.
So I got
That's
it.
what's right.
You know, that's why it's become as important that you must get to the bottom of this.
Right. But
Because the police can't do their job in the city if you don't.
right. That's why I don't understand. I don't know how. And the mayor will, because she feels like, she's unchallenged there, that she thinks this is going to go away. These folks are not letting go. Let's see what the callers have to think about this. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning. I just have a question.
Yes.
And my question is, how can anyone who's under Police Commissioner Cox be trusted?
No, that's what Dr. Bradley was
That's
just
my
saying.
point.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is
That's
that
my point right
is
there.
that you now put the whole department in question, because again, if I was charged with untruthfulness, and I would ask, then why is there an investigation being opened into me being untruthful? And the commissioner, there was an allegation, and no one that I'm aware of opened any investigation, is because he's the commissioner. No, I'm not touching that. That's when someone should have had the courage. And the person who should have charged of that is now the number 2 person in the Boston Police
Yeah, but
Department.
see, the other side of it is the purpose of the police department is to bring the individuals who committed the crime to the justice system so they can be adjudicated. We don't make that decision. I'm going someplace with this. We don't make that decision at the time of contact with the suspect that you did the crime. We do it on probable cause as a probability that you did. The court makes a decision. Now, when that case goes to the court, the DA has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt
Correct.
every element of the crime in which that individual was charged. Now, if the officer is testifying and he's working for a commissioner that has already been charged with untruthfulness, then what make me think as a juror that officer is not also untruthful in this matter?
But then the question is, then why wasn't Officer Devers, if Cox is saying he didn't have the conversation with her, she's saying she did, then why isn't the Norfolk County DA's office? Because I think they know that she was credible and he's not, so they can't charge her with a crime because she didn't commit a crime, because she did have the conversation with him.
I don't
That's-
doubt that she had the conversation. What because I'm feeling if I had to make a judgment here, I would say that it did happen, but I think that also opened up a can of worms for Mike.
Right.
I think it does because of the fact that it puts his veracity
Exactly.
in questioning.
Yeah.
It put his veracity, his truthfulness in question.
And that's
if
what-
that's the case,
And not just
then
his,
it's
the
going to be a
whole
problem.
department.
The whole
Ex-
department.
the
That's
whole
where I'm going
department.
with it.
Exactly. It's the rotten from the head.
Yeah.
The fish rot from the head. Dick Castillo, caller, good morning. Welcome to the roundtable.
Hey, good morning. Point on that, actually, in terms of, it's more likely, actually, everything in the facts point to the fact that the conversation did happen with Cox and with Dever, because of the fact that if you look at the timeline, when Dever spoke with the FBI and the date of the meeting that she had with Commissioner Cox, and then when Dever came around and then changed her testimony, recanting everything that she had actually given to the FBI, in her interviews with them. So it's if you look at the timeline, it was several months of her not changing anything that she said to the FBI, not changing her statement, not altering anything at all until after she met with Cox. Mm-hmm. Then she went and contacted, and that's when supposedly the changes happened. And it wasn't until people found out the date of that meeting, then the timeline, if you look at the timeline there, it more indicates that she definitely did meet with Cox. And then also in terms of with Cox, it's not the first time. He has a history of covering up blue on blue. He has a history of covering up when it comes to other cops that are within his, under his command or whatever it may be. And also covering up, in terms of whether it be not just when he was with the Boston Police Department, there's even history there of when he was chief at Ann Arbor. So it's not something that is just a one-time thing because of...
No, to your point, in Ann Arbor, he wasn't there 30 days. He was placed on leave for some matter out there.
Yeah, and that matter out there was related to where he was actually, if you look at all the reports that came out of that, he was essentially strong-arming I believe it was a lieutenant out there, with regards to him strong-arming a lieutenant to essentially change the result of their internal investigation and trying to get them to essentially change the negative result that they had for somebody.
But see, this also
change it
goes back
something else.
to your point.
There's a serious pattern, right? And Owens has a history of it too.
Right.
Tob too is the old Menino crew, like Tob, that Wu has brought back in, and Davis as well. Like it's.
Right. But I think
it's
this
very
also
deliberate.
this goes back to the recent reports, Dr. Bradley and folks, wherein we've been talking about OPAT here, the Office of Police Accountable and Transparency at the city, in which they had an issue where they were having findings and Cox was overturning all of those. See, this all kind of ties into people's doubting whether or not the Boston Police Commission is being an honest broker, because you're saying that there's no independence, and they're saying, wait a minute, we found officers responsible for their behavior. The one incident we did on this broadcast where it was alleged that an officer had assaulted someone with his firearm, and he didn't have his body camera on, and Cox, the finding was, well, they couldn't prove that it happened. Well, the fact that the camera wasn't on is a violation, because so then it gives more credibility to what the other person is saying. But they were saying that out of all of these complaints that have come to them, when they go to Cox relating to police officers, he is ruled the other way. We all knew there was no independence there, but this, in light of what is taking place now, it just starts to, that fish starts to smell worse. That there's something going on here where, people aren't being held accountable. And if it starts at the top, where if he's not being honest, and all these other, how can people have any confidence in these other agencies, these institutions that are attached to the city, OPAT, in the police department, in their internal affairs, that certain people will be held accountable, but not all. Dick, any final comments from you, sir? I mean, what's your take on this?
I just think that it all starts from the higher top with Michelle Wu, and then it goes trickles down, because obviously I don't trust Michael Cox, because this guy's, judging from his history, is a shady builder.
Well, I mean, it's the citizens in Boston, not all of them, have said, you know what, there's an election on Tuesday. It's a foregone conclusion that Mayor Wu will be reelected for 4 more years. This is what they want. And the fact when you don't have a check and balance on power, we're seeing at the federal level, this is what you get. This is what you get. I mean, we're seeing some things that, like, Mayor Wu would not have given the superintendent of schools a pay raise before the election if she wasn't a shoo-in. She would not have gone to the state and asked to override the Prop 2.5 to increase your taxes more if she wasn't a shoo-in. Folks, when people show you who they are, believe them. Thank you, Dick. I appreciate you, brother. Enjoy the rest of your day. I said go out and vote, but I'm not sure if it makes a difference. And matter of fact, join Siddiqui down in Nubian Square today at 2:00 if you're in the area.
That's probably a better move, because
Actually, I want to add too. It's like when Cox had his debut in the park by Michelle Wu, I asked, I was there, and I asked if he was going to stop covering up for corrupt or compromised cops, and specifically sex crimes, and he's still covering up blue on blue. It's like, even when as he did, and when he was with Internal Affairs, I have documented proof actually of his clearing a white Confederate flag loving cop, even clearing him of gun crimes that he admitted to, and other felonious behavior he admitted, so that he could get out of more serious sexual misconduct. And there's proof he covered up in Ann Arbor. Most apparently, he had his wife's vehicle violation covered up, in terms of motor vehicle violation covering up in Michigan, and possibly even to the point where a Michigan state police officer lost their job. And then after Cox left, the acting chief in Ann Arbor told me personally that it was the worst time of her life under Cox. So no wonder Cox put the screws to Deborah for
well, I think also, what's like I said, full disclosure, I grew up in the same street with Michael Cox. I know him. But I think what was really the final nail for me was when he brought back Nicole Tabb, who at the time was part of the legal department for the Boston Police Department, who, in my opinion, targeted officers of color more harshly than others. And to bring her back as his chief of staff, and I told her, this is someone who, under the Davis administration, who we took a vote of no confidence. Why you would bring someone back like that, other than the fact that Davis is pulling the strings, again, in my opinion, this is what you get. This is what you get, folks. And we're honest brokers.
And then also, why Davis? Yeah. Look at the history with Davis, too. It's where does it all lead back to?
Right.
It's as much as Wu tries to differentiate herself, she's pulling back all the old Menino people.
Exactly.
And we know how it was under Menino for the longest time.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And I mean, and then Cox has dismantled taking officers of color out of leading patrol detectives, the top bureaus in the city, in the police department, and replacing them with white males. I mean, this is typical right out of his playbooks. And now we always say, if you hear long enough, you'll get a turn. Well, his turn has now come. And I told folks, this does not surprise me. I don't know if Mayor Wu wasn't a shoo-in, I think he would have already been dismissed. I think now it's probably a matter of how do we transition you out of here? Because you now have given permission to every police officer, if they're untruthful or not, if the accusation is made, to say, hey, wait a minute, what did we do with the commissioner when it was? Who investigated that? And clearly no one did.
What does it do? What does it do to morale? What does it do to all the officers that actually are doing their job, and then they're basically lumped in with Cox and all the other ones that have lied?
Well, it doesn't give any, there was very little confidence in the internal affairs of the department and even the somewhat quasi-separate independent of the OPAT, right? And here's a dilemma, because most people don't understand this little technical, is that the police commissioner is not a sworn police officer, is a civilian, so he doesn't fall under the same rules as posts for officers who were sworn, and every other chief in the Commonwealth falls under posts as peripheral. The commissioner doesn't, but he still is responsible, because the department.
But he still has certification, though, doesn't he? Isn't he still technically have certification as a police officer?
No, he doesn't.
In Massachusetts?
He's a civilian.
But I mean, as his time as a police officer in Massachusetts, he would have still had.
But he's not.
He's still a certified police officer.
He wasn't.
He wasn't.
I meant previously. Like, wasn't he? Wouldn't he be considered a certified police officer?
No. Well, even if he was, he was
not
civilian.
on the post.
Right.
He was not. Post was not.
They're saying, like, once he retired from his previous position with the Boston Police Department, he lost his certification.
He never had it because it wasn't in place.
He wasn't required.
He never had it?
It wasn't required when
then.
he was like when I retired from the police department.
It's only been
post was not required for me to be.
3 years.
Once I actually completed the Boston Police Academy, I'm certified.
Right.
Now that I have post, if I wanted to come back for any, even if to teach, I have to be post certified.
Right.
So he wasn't. He was not post certified at all because he wasn't required when he left.
But even if he was, once he took the position as commissioner, it's a
done.
civilian position. His post stuff is even if he had been certified, it's suspended. He's not operating in that capacity, so he wouldn't have to meet the requirements of post because he's a civilian.
His chief would though.
His chief.
So wouldn't this situation be something where if he went to any other place that you had, like, say if he tried to be a police chief anywhere else, and their states had post certification requirements for their chief, wouldn't this impact it so that he wouldn't be able to get post-certified in any other state that required it?
It should. With this not being investigated, the final, and that's why if I were him, I would want this to be investigated because I'd want the truth to come out. Yeah. Because this case happened to be one that got worldwide attention, not just here. People were watching this trial all over. I mean, family members calling me about it. Yeah. You would want to clear.
But who can investigate it though? Because that's technically, if it's internal, then everything goes back to the commissioner, which is him. Right. So then he would be the one who could basically overrule if anything negative did come out.
And this is where the mayor
really. So where does that come in?
What can happen here is that the mayor can call the DA. The DA can have the state PD or another police department do the investigation separate and from the Boston Police Department with the assistant of the Boston Police Department and report their findings directly to the mayor, not to anyone in the Boston PD. So it can be a separate department conducting
because there's a conflict. Because again, the person who was in charge of internal affairs at the time is now his number 2 person in the police department. So there's no daylight there where the perception of independence. I'm not saying he can't, but people wouldn't believe anything that comes out of there. They wouldn't believe anything that comes out of OPAT. Yeah. They're not going to believe the mayor.
Yeah. It should be a department separate and detached from the BPD or from the city.
But see, this
does the investigation.
Or potentially this could end up be to something where you see on the West Coast where it could end up if depending on what was happening. But like when the DOJ would come in and you'd be under like federal review or whatever it may be.
Well, I think what's
it's going to bring into question something like that.
What's going to happen is the subpoenas are going to start flying, and people are going to be called in into court, and that's when the rubber's going to hit the road, because then because the question is going to be asked. Well, then if Officer Devers, who quickly abruptly resigned, is not charged with perjury, then why not?
Yeah. I don't think it.
Exactly.
I don't think it has risen to the federal level yet. I think it'll be more on the state purview to actually do the investigation.
But we've also seen where the state police in the whole Karen Reed trial, where state police and even Canton and Boston.
Well, to that point,
state police hasn't necessarily been, let's just say, completely squeaky clean.
Well, just think about what you
known
just
for their high level of honesty either.
Think about what you just said, Helen. Is that's a perfect example of what we're talking about here, right? Dr. Bradley and Rose, is that officer, I forget his name, the detective that was assigned. Now, everything that he has touched in the past is now coming under scrutiny, right? And that they'll be examining. And he's just a detective. So just imagine the magnitude of now anything that the commissioner touches and disciplines. If they're doing that with this one person who's just his case, this is the person who was in charge of the police department, and he couldn't stay in his position, and they're challenging. The lawyers are going in and looking into everything he had anything to do with, and they're saying the appearance of improprieties because of him is a reason why this should be dismissed. What do you think's going to happen with our commissioner handing out discipline and anyone that he is terminated for untruthfulness, and he has. He has.
I mean, if I want to turn it, I would take it right back to court.
And the mayor, like I said, I don't know how he survives this. I don't
either.
I mean, other than the mayor's arrogance, and she's okay with having that shadow, that over the cloud hanging over the head of the police department. Because again, if I got brought up on charges for anything, I'd be like, hey, wait a minute. When do we start? We're investigating officers. But we have a police officer who's claiming that she had a conversation with the commissioner and she testified under oath, and she's not charged with perjury. And we have a commissioner who's saying he didn't have a conversation, and then we have independent evidence that on his blotter that he met with her, and she's saying that that's the day it all lines up. And like I said, I give more weight to her under oath than him in front of a microphone, in front of a reporter, denying that he knows anything about it, and why it was a bonehead move, honestly, for him to bring. Because then you got to ask yourself, Dr. Bradley, all your time in your job, you've had many cases, as well as Helen. I've never had a police commissioner call me in and ask me to do the right thing. What does you?
Before she's set to testify under oath about a case, when we say Karen Reed trials of a blue on blue, whether one cop killed another cop or well-connected cops, killing another cop. That's what we're talking about here. So right after you have Devert, a police officer who just basically started with your police department, is about to, before she's set to testify on oath in court in front of probably hundreds of thousands, if not however many people across the country, that's when you tell her to, quote, do the right thing, not tell the truth, which would be very specific, but do the right thing, which is very subjective.
Well, you shouldn't.
And she changes her story.
There shouldn't have been any conversation taking place at all, because then you could be interpreted that you're tampering with a witness. She knows that she is going to testify.
That's where I am. I mean, I asked a question, and I understand it's suggestive. I asked a question: what does "do the right thing" mean? But why even have the meeting? Under the circumstances, why even go there? Why even do it?
And at this point, why not witness intimidation charges?
Well, that's what I'm saying. But also,
right? Those have been flying around, all in related to the Karen Reed trial, people that have been involved. Why not witness intimidation charges then against cops?
Well, I don't even think it's intimidation. The fact that you're tampering with a witness, regardless whether you intimidate them or whatever you tell them, it's when it's just like as police officers, we know when someone has been called in to testify. It's like we give someone their Miranda rights. We can't go and have a conversation with them once they've lawyered up. And this person is a witness, and that's why the people can't talk to them. That's why the DA's office can't call that person in and have a conversation with them if they've had a subpoena to come into court. You don't touch those people. That's like a third rail on the train. Why he would think it would be a good idea, even if it was as a pep rally, to call her in and have a conversation. This is why you have all these conspiracies, and it could be perfectly innocent. But you have created an environment here where it's toxic, and now you call into your own situation, your credibility of what was that conversation. No one's going to believe anything you say now.
Yeah, I mean, you have
Yeah,
created,
especially when that conversation, that meeting, is the point at which the officer's story completely changes.
Right.
From what they told federal agents at the FBI, and then the meeting happens, and then it changes.
And then not only that, Dr. Bradley, and then she just leaves a month later. I mean, she's gone. She's gone. Again, the fact that she was not charged because in a case as high profile as this one, and I'm not saying because of that she should be charged, but you think that if the DA's office thought for 1 minute that she had lied under oath, that's why this lawyer he's not targeting Devers for her testimony. He's not in his letter saying that she perjured herself. He's not asking the DA's office to come after her because they believe that she's under oath. She told the truth that she had this conversation. It's the commissioner.
I mean, not only did she tell hold up. Not only did she tell the truth, but you have the supporting documentation that the meeting occurred. So that's another area that really says that her veracity is intact. It's Michael's veracity that one has in question.
Exactly.
Helen, and you got to look at too, like I was going to say, and it looks like the feds. The other question too is, what are the feds doing tipping off Cox? Like, come on now. It's like we know this now that a lawyer from North Carolina does an info request, and after the info request, like for what? For kicks, like, but then was able to find out about the calendar meeting or whatever, and also the fact that the FBI are, even though supposedly Cox has nothing to do with it, but the FBI are even tipping off Cox as to documents that are being released to the defense, and that this specific officer under his command is the one who's being referenced in the documents. And then the day, I believe it was like the day or two after Cox gets tipped off by the feds, by the FBI, is when this meeting is held.
Well, that's why I think
that's another thing too. So you have between the FBI and even when you think about independent, FBI is tipping off the head of the Boston Police Department to let them know that one of their officers is going to be testifying in court or is part of these documents, and he has a meeting with her, and then her testimony changes. Involved when it comes to a well-connected cop killing another cop, supposedly, right? It seems to be what the case is here, and that's collusion after collusion of cover-up of blue on blue. That's why people are like, what the heck? Right? Yeah. Where's the trust in the system there?
Yeah, I mean,
you got even feds tipping off.
Yeah, but that is, unfortunately, that would be seen as courtesy between these two agencies. Right. Because the FBI can't be responsible for how Cox handled it.
Right.
My thing is that Cox should have never.
But why the courtesy? Why do you need the courtesy?
Hold up. Cox should have never called the meeting.
That's right.
That's the bottom line. He should have never called it. Although he had the information, he should have never called it. There was no need to call it.
It's unprecedented. It doesn't happen. Helen, thank you. We've got to run. Appreciate your call and appreciate your comments here. Definitely.
Call in again, please.
Yeah, this will continue. Oh man, what a.
Y'all take care.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. So again, we have
a couple of minutes left.
We have the announcement again, 2:00 today in Nubian Square. The dedication of the No, we want to get this other stuff in. You have something you want to put up?
No. Just again, we're doing our things that we ever do every Saturday. We're doing the food drive down at the.
Should be along the line of River Street there.
No, Edgewater, like I think 30 Edgewater, right across the city farm. I can't remember the name of it, but we've moved it from Edgewater, Temple Church, to the farming. It's a city-funded farming venture where they're growing, urban farm.
And folks, there is an election this Tuesday.
This Tuesday,
7 a.m. to 8
vote.
p.m.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, it's full
that's exactly. And
it's still at large.
This is how you matter. It's like whether or not you go. If you don't vote, you won't matter. But if you do vote, whether you vote for the winning side or not the winning side, numbers do matter. They will recognize that you are voting. So
one of the things that disturbs me as I do my research on Black America, which my next project is on, is that all throughout the history they have tried to alienate us from the suffrage, from voting.
Yes.
And now that we have done it to ourselves.
Yes.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
have, you know what I mean? They have successfully convinced us that
Right.
we don't need to do it.
We
Yeah.
gotta go, Dr. Bradley.
Be blessed.
Thank you.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer. Cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard. Hustle real hard, hustle so if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, why your dog's in prison? Why your baby mom's stripping, why your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'? You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst. And the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer. Cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard. Hustle real hard, hustle so if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya. No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.